In our last episode, we looked at the life and legacy of Napoleon Bonaparte. In part 1, we explored Napoleon's humble origins, his childhood and ancestry, his youth and military training, and his rise to prominence during the French Revolution. We saw him emerge as a brilliant and ambitious young general who played a crucial role in the siege of Toulon and later married the love of his life, Josephine. But Napoleon's journey was only just the beginning. Now, join us as Napoleon embarks into a series of military campaigns that will take him to a height of power and glory. Fresh off from marriage, Napoleon decided to start his campaign in 1796. The sun was setting over the Italian countryside as Napoleon Bonaparte led his troops into the fray. It was 1796, and the young general had been tasked with defeating the Austrians and their allies in the region. Napoleon's army was outnumbered, but he was unfazed. He had a plan, and he was confident it would work. As the French troops advanced, they were met with fierce resistance. The Austrians had a strong defense, and their cannons were pounding the French lines. But Napoleon was not to be deterred. He rode into the thick of the battle, his horse's hooves pounding the earth as he urged his men forward. "Vive la France!" he cried, his voice ringing out above the din of battle. The French troops responded, surging forward with renewed energy. They broke through the Austrian lines, sending the enemy fleeing in disarray. Napoleon's tactics had paid off. He had used a clever combination of feints and flanking maneuvers to outmaneuver the Austrians, catching them off guard and unprepared. As the dust settled, Napoleon surveyed the battlefield. The Austrians were in full retreat, leaving behind their dead and wounded. The French had won a decisive victory, and Napoleon's reputation as a military genius was cemented. But the campaign was far from over. Napoleon's army still had to contend with the Austrian and Sardinian armies, and the terrain was treacherous. The Italian countryside was a maze of hills, valleys, and rivers, making it perfect for guerrilla warfare. Napoleon knew that to win, he had to be bold. He led his troops in a series of daring maneuvers, outflanking and outmaneuvering the enemy at every turn. At the Battle of Lodi, Napoleon's troops crossed a rickety bridge under heavy fire, securing a vital victory. At the Battle of Castiglione, they defeated a combined Austrian and Sardinian army, sending them fleeing in disarray. With each victory, Napoleon's legend grew. His troops adored him, and his enemies feared him. He was the master of the battlefield and a general without equal. As the campaign drew to a close, Napoleon turned his attention to the political arena. He negotiated a series of treaties with the Italian states, creating a network of alliances and client states that would secure French influence in the region. The Treaty of Campo Formio, signed in October 1797, marked the culmination of Napoleon's Italian campaign. The Austrians ceded vast territories to France, and Napoleon's reputation as a statesman and diplomat was secured. As he rode back to Paris, Napoleon knew that his destiny lay ahead. He would go on to conquer much of Europe, becoming Emperor of the French and reshaping the continent in his image. The sun beat down on the dusty Egyptian landscape as Napoleon Bonaparte led his troops into the unknown. It was 1798, and the young general had been tasked with conquering this ancient land, disrupting British trade routes and expanding French influence. As they marched, Napoleon's troops encountered fierce resistance from the Mamluk warriors who had ruled Egypt for centuries. But Napoleon was unfazed, using his tactical genius to outsmart the enemy at every turn. At the Battle of the Pyramids, Napoleon's troops formed a square, protecting themselves from the Mamluk cavalry charges. The French cannons pounded the enemy lines, and the Mamluks were defeated. Napoleon's victory was swift and decisive, and he entered Cairo in triumph. But his campaign was not without its challenges. The British Navy, led by Admiral Horatio Nelson, threatened to cut off French supply lines, and the desert terrain proved unforgiving. Despite these obstacles, Napoleon's ambition drove him forward. He established a new government in Egypt, introducing French reforms and modernizing the country. He also encouraged the arts and sciences, and his troops discovered the Rosetta Stone, an ancient artifact that would unlock the secrets of hieroglyphics. But Napoleon's Egyptian campaign was ultimately doomed. The British Navy destroyed the French fleet at the Battle of the Nile, stranding Napoleon's army in the desert. Though he fought on, Napoleon was forced to withdraw, leaving behind a trail of glory and disappointment. As he sailed away from Egypt, Napoleon knew that his destiny lay elsewhere. He would return to France, seize power, and embark on a new series of conquests that would change the course of European history. Napoleon Bonaparte, surrounded by his loyal troops, approached the Luxembourg Palace in Paris. It was November 9, 1799, and the fate of France hung in the balance. Napoleon, fresh from his triumphs in Italy and Egypt, had returned to France in chaos. The Directory, the ruling council, was corrupt and ineffective, and the people were suffering. With his boldness, Napoleon had decided to seize power. He gathered his troops and marched on the Luxembourg Palace where the Directory was meeting. As they approached, Napoleon's heart raced with excitement. This was his moment, the realization of a lifelong ambition. The troops surrounded the palace, trapping the Directory inside. Napoleon entered the building, his eyes scanning the room for opposition. But there was none. The Directory, realizing their fate was sealed, meekly surrendered. Napoleon, with a nod, accepted their resignation. The people, weary of the Directory's corruption, welcomed Napoleon's strong hand. He brought stability and order, and France began to flourish once more. As the days passed, Napoleon's power grew. He centralized authority, reformed the bureaucracy, and promoted economic growth. But not everyone was pleased. Royalists and Jacobins, opposed to Napoleon's rule, plotted against him. Yet Napoleon's grip on power was too strong. He crushed the opposition, cementing his position as France's leader. The coup d'etat of the 18th Brumaire 8th marked the beginning of Napoleon's reign. Napoleon, now the master of France, set about recognizing the government. He established the consulate with himself as first consul and began to implement reforms. Napoleon Bonaparte, now the first consul of the French Republic, sat at his desk, surveying the sprawling map of Europe before him. It was 1800, and his coup d'etat had been a resounding success. As he gazed at the map, Napoleon's mind whirled with ambition. He had always dreamed of a unified Europe with France at its helm, and now, with his newfound power, he set about making that vision a reality. Napoleon's first move was to centralize authority, streamlining the government and bureaucracy. He established a new constitution, solidifying his position as first consul and granting him sweeping powers. Next, he turned his attention to the economy. France was in shambles, its finances in disarray. Napoleon implemented a series of reforms, establishing the Bank of France and stabilizing the currency. But Napoleon's true passion was foreign policy. He had a vision of a Europe remade in France's image. With himself as the mastermind, he began to negotiate treaties and alliances, using his charm and strategic thinking to win over wary leaders. But his first target was Austria, which had long been a thorn in France's side. Napoleon negotiated the Treaty of Luneville, securing a vital victory for France and cementing his reputation as a master diplomat. As the months passed, Napoleon's power grew. He became the arbiter of European politics, his influence stretching from the Iberian Peninsula to the Baltic states. But not everyone was pleased. Britain in particular viewed Napoleon's rise with suspicion. The British Navy, still the dominant force at sea, threatened to disrupt Napoleon's plans. Unbothered, Napoleon began to build his naval power, establishing a fleet that would challenge British dominance. The stage was set for a titanic struggle between two of history's greatest powers. The curtain closes on this chapter of Napoleon's life, but the drama is far from over. Will he continue to shape the destiny of Europe, or will the forces of history rise against him? Join us next time as we explore the rise of Napoleon to the emperor and the epic struggles that will shape the course of European history. Stay tuned for the next part. Turn on notifications and make sure you click the like and subscribe buttons.